Amit strained against the chains, forcing his body toward the entrance of the shadow dungeon. As he attempted to move forward, the chains reacted, tightening and pulling him back. Even the mere intent to leave the tomb triggered their restraint, preventing him from taking another step. Suho reviewed their plan. The first task was for him and Essel to defeat the dungeon boss and destroy the dungeon. The second was to eliminate the foundation of the chains, rendering them non-functional. Once both tasks were completed, Amit, freed from his restraints, would be able to join them, along with Baru. After that, they would enter the shadow dungeon together and escape the collapsing tomb. Amit understood that failure in either task would mean the plan would not succeed. Suho mentioned that he had a backup plan prepared just in case. Regardless of the outcome, Amit believed that anything would be better than remaining imprisoned. Sand swirled across the ground as Tomb Warden Saika began charging a powerful magic circle in his right hand, the energy gathering rapidly at its center. The sand surged toward Suho, striking with force. He dashed forward, eyes burning with determination, slicing through the sand with his dagger. Despite his efforts, the sand wrapped around him, restraining his movement. He struggled, gritting his teeth, his thoughts racing. Tomb Warden. Saika was difficult to approach due to the sand. Judging by its red name, it had to be at least A rank. At this rate, he would run out of mana before landing a decisive blow. He knew he had to finish the fight as soon as possible. Essel slid across the ground and hurled her spear with force. Still struggling within the sand, Suho raised his hand and activated the ruler's authority, seizing control of the spear mid-air. Guided by his will, the weapon accelerated toward Tomb Warden Saika. Saika raised his hand calmly and blocked the incoming spear with ease. Suho called for their bond skill, and Essel responded eagerly, her eyes lighting up. She had been waiting for this moment. After fighting through countless gates alongside the young monarch, she had come to understand how the bond skill worked. Each time she killed a magic beast, she absorbed its soul, gradually increasing the charge rate. Now, with the skill finally ready, it was time to show the results of the trust Suho had placed in her, especially during her solo hunts in the shadow dungeon. Suho called for their bond skill, and Essel responded eagerly, her eyes lighting up. She had been waiting for this moment. After fighting through countless gates alongside the young monarch, she had come to understand how the bond skill worked. Each time she killed a magic beast, she absorbed its soul, gradually increasing the charge rate. Now, with the skill finally ready, it was time to show the results of the trust Suho had placed in her, especially during her solo hunts in the shadow dungeon. Essel collapsed to the ground, her strength spent. As she lay there, she reflected on how she had only shown her disappointing side to the young monarch and hoped that their bond skill would prove useful in the end. A system notification appeared. Bond skill, Demon Strike, charge rate 67%, delivers a devastating attack by receiving the energy of the White Flame's descendant. Suho focused all his strength into a single strike, channeling the full force of the bond skill. His attack landed cleanly on Warden Saika, and the massive figure split into two mid-air under the impact. Baru sensed a sudden shift and turned toward Amit, who was staring up at the ceiling. Debris began to fall as the structure trembled. Baru realized what was happening. The dungeon was collapsing. Amut, still watching the ceiling, understood the cause. The dungeon master had been defeated. Amit slammed his chained restraint with force, shattering it and causing it to fall to the ground. Seeing this, Baru called out to him, urging, without hesitation, for the crocodile to follow. There was no time to waste. They had to reach the young monarch. Amit looked at the broken chains. With nothing holding him back anymore, he realized the spell had finally lifted. He was free. Free from Tarnak at last. Amit reflected, his voice low and heavy. He still didn't understand why Tarnak and the spellcaster had chosen to experiment on him, an ordinary humanoid. All that remained were the painful memories of their relentless trials. Day after day, his body was destroyed by Tarnak and regenerated by the spellcaster. As those experiments continued, his flesh became stronger, just as they had intended, but his mind, unable to endure the agony, began to break. In time, he even tore out his own eyes, eventually coming to find comfort in the pain. Yet amid all that torment, one longing kept him from losing himself entirely. He clung to a single wish, to once again feel the majesty of the vast, untouched nature he had seen in his youth. As long as that dream could be realized, even now, it was enough. The chain hook suddenly lunged at Amit, catching Beru off guard. Amit's thoughts raced. How could the hook come flying at him like that? Blood trickled from his mouth as he screamed out in anger, cursing Tarnak and the spellcaster for preferring to kill him rather than set him free. At that moment, Suho intervened, delivering a powerful kick to the attacking chain hook. Beru called out to the young monarch in surprise. Suho's mind noted the danger. That was one formidable hook. Before he could react further, another hook shot swiftly toward Amit. Suho thought the chain hook was returning to attack Amit again. If the chains wouldn't come off on their own, then there was no other choice but to deal with the hooks directly. Suho opened the gate to the shadow dungeon and began kicking each chain hook into it one by one. The hooks, once flung, disappeared into the dungeon's depths. Amit, watching the relentless effort, his body broken and bloodied, questioned what Suho could possibly desire to endure such pain. He realized that his own body could no longer hold out, but in that moment, he understood. This was the strength that had made the Shadow Monarch undefeatable. Suho stared at him, and Amit, meeting his gaze, steadied himself. He understood what needed to be done. If putting the hooks through the gate was the key to freedom, then he would see it through. Together with Suho, he would struggle to the end. In that instant, he no longer saw Suho as just a human. He saw him as the young monarch. Hessel slowly opened her eyes, blinking against the dim light. As she stirred, Beru noticed her awakening and approached. Realizing where she was, Azul recalled being sent to the shadow dungeon by the young monarch after she had collapsed from exhaustion. Concern flickered across her face as she searched for signs of Suho and Amit. Beru gently signaled her to remain calm, directing her attention to a resting figure nearby. Upon seeing Suho safe and alive, a soft, relieved smile formed on her lips. "Notice! You have recruited Iron Body Descendant as a companion. Notice! Urgent quest, Dimensional Rift has been completed. Notice! Level up. Notice! You have received a reward for completing the quest. Notice! Would you like to check your reward? Accept, decline." In his office, the man reviewed information on a tablet, his expression growing tense. The disappearance of Hunter Sung Jinwoo hinted that something significant was approaching. With the return of Gates and Hunters, the memories passed down from the previous world had enabled him to quickly suppress the chaos of the cataclysm by founding the Hunters Association. However, a new variable had emerged: star powder. It was unlike anything that existed before, a substance capable of amplifying a low-rank hunter's mana without any adverse effects. His investigation had led him to a surprising source: Lee Min-sung, the Vice Guildmaster of the Reaper Guild. With Guildmaster Im Taegu away on an overseas trip, Min-sung had become unusually active. It was suspicious. In the previous timeline, Min-sung had never demonstrated such capability. It felt as though someone else was pulling the strings. As he considered the implications, his phone rang. He picked it up and listened silently. On the other end, Yu Jinho, now a prominent figure, requested the association's help. His voice was laced with concern. His nephew had awakened as a hunter and was now trapped inside a gate. The chairman's expression changed. He processed the name and quietly acknowledged it. "Suho,